Hello and welcome to Investments Without Fear. Hey, ¿qué pasó? Estamos hablando en inglés. Bienvenidos a Inversiones sin Miedo, ISM. ¿Y por qué estoy hablando en inglés? Porque hoy me acompaña un personaje que no habla español, sino hicimos la entrevista en inglés. Y este personaje es una persona muy admirada por muchos de nosotros que estamos en la bolsa y estamos haciendo inversiones. Es el pionero, la leyenda, una persona que creó una compañía y la vendió en 750 millones. Ya saben a quién estoy refiriéndome. Después creó otra compañía y la vendió en $1 billón. Les apuesto que ya saben quién es. Ahí van a ver el cartel de la compañía a la que me refiero. Pues efectivamente es Tom Sosnoff, a cual lo invito a la sala. Hello, and thank you so much, Tom. It is a great honor to have you here. I really appreciate it to be in this humble show. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, Tom. What is your feeling to be here?
What is my feeling for being here? I'm excited to be
Yes,
here. It's
in,
gonna be.
in this humble program, in this humble show.
I don't know how humble this show is. I don't know. Um, this is my first time with you, so I'm not sure. But
Okay,
we'll see. I don't know what humble. I don't know. I you never know. You,
great.
you never you never bite the hand that may one day feed you.
Awesome. Well, let me tell you a little bit about this show. This show was created to help investors in different type of investments, not only in the stock market, but most of our followers are doing options, and some of them are futures. But I would like to ask you before we start this conversation. Some people don't know you, Tom. If you can tell us a little bit, how did you start in this market? In this world of investment, do you have any financial career?
Um, well, this is my. I started in 1981. So so it's pretty much been my entire adult life, for 43 years. I've been 44 years. I've been in the markets on a very personal level. So this is really all I've ever done. I started right out of college and I've been doing it ever since. So either as a floor trader or, building, brokerage firms. That's it. That's all
But
I've
did,
ever done.
but did you study some financial economics or something relative to
No,
nothing?
no. I
Wow.
studied I studied political science. I
Wow.
was I was positive that I was going to be either a lawyer or some form, in you know, some form of government, lobbyist or I studied international politics, international relations, and I was a political science major. So no, I did not study business. I mean, I was a good math student and I studied statistics, but I didn't really ever study business.
You are a living legend for the option market, my friend. We admire you so much. Probably you can run for president. Uh,
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen.
Tell me one thing. I wrote so many questions because so many friends told me, they couldn't believe that you were going to be in the show. So they asked me so many questions like, what inspired you to create Thinkorswim?
Yeah.
Because when you started, I believe it was not options, or how this thing started.
Well, it's funny, like do I don't do every podcast that people ask, and I don't do I'm very particular, and a lot of times I will only do like talks and podcasts for, student. I only do retail. I don't do any institutional. And a lot of times I will take like a new, somebody new that's just starting out or school, because I like to give people a chance and I don't want to talk to the same people that everybody else has talked to. So that's why you got your chance here.
Oh,
Um,
I really appreciate it.
but I I feel like when we built Thinkorswim, it was just a crazy idea that I had at the time, and it wasn't necessarily to be a brokerage firm. When my initial thought process was, I was a market maker and trading the S&P 100 for about 20 years. And as I was standing in the pit one day, I'm like, this business is going to change dramatically as technology improves. And I had this idea that we could create an option market on virtually anything. And um, but so I left the floor to kind of build up that concept just because I wanted to do something different. And in the process, I realized that the regulatory hurdles were going to be too great to launch an option market on non-traditional underlyings, non-traditional instruments. So we pivoted to a traditional marketplace, and Thinkorswim was born. And I had to teach myself how to build technology. We had to teach ourselves a lot about dealing with retail investors, things like that, because we had always been on the other side of the marketplace. But it was a fun, amazing journey, and now 25 years later, we built Thinkorswim, sold it, and then built Tasty and sold it. So Tasty, I'm still here, and Tasty is an amazing company.
Do you still at Tasty Works, Tasty Trade?
Yeah, I'm still a Tastytrade, and uh, I'm just I'm a larger shareholder of our new company, and I still drive innovation and all our content at Tasty, and until it's time to do something new, I'm never going to quit. So it's just a question of, I'm never going to go away. So it's just a question of, what's next and things like that. But I love what I do.
And you know what? I was going to ask you that thing because I thought that you were not any longer on Tasty Trade after you sold it.
No, 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 I haven't left. I've stayed here because I love this company. I love this product.
Great. And you build Tasty Life, which is an awesome show that I follow. And
Yeah.
the group of people who are in Tasty Trade doing different trades, I see great strategies that they put in there. But are they real money or it's just paper?
No, 100% real money. We don't even have a paper platform. We
Oh,
don't do Everything we do is real time, real money. We
wow.
don't at Tasty at Thinkorswim, we built a virtual platform, but at Tasty, we don't have a virtual platform. It's 100% all our money and all real.
Now talking about strategies, what is your favorite strategy? I see a lot of strangles that you do.
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of strangles because I'm a premium seller, but I'm not married to like a specific strategy. I mean, I sell a lot of premium because I um just because I find that that's as a retail customer, I find that that's kind of, easy to execute, very flexible, easy to adjust, easy to roll, easy to tweak, that kind of thing. So I prefer undefined risk over defined risk, but I'm pretty indifferent to strategy. I don't have, you know, I'm not tied to any one particular strategy, just like I'm not tied to any one particular product.
I have a friend that he asked me to ask you this question. He did a strangle, and the thing it was touching one of the wins, one of the strikes, and he
Sure.
said, "Can you ask Tom what he will do?" He rolled
I
the
usually recenter those. So what I do is I have this strategy I use called I like to recenter those positions, but keep a little bit of directional skew on. So what I tend to do in those situations is buy the guts back. That means buy the two short options back and then sell out new wings at recentered prices. Basically just widening out the spread, widening out the deltas.
Okay, so you don't roll the position. You just
I mean, if it depends how much time's left to expiration. If it's inside of 21 days, I'll roll the position. If it's outside of 21 days, I'll recenter.
okay. Yeah, I see that normally you guys recommend 45 days for a position.
Yeah, 45 days to open, 21 days to roll, but we trade everything. Like we're not tied to any, those are just kind of optimal mechanics. We really do anything.
And what is your opinion about crypto?
Um, I am I am bullish on digital assets in general. My opinion on crypto is it is a very interesting asset class. It's an interesting technology. I'm personally fascinated with the whole entire crypto space. Um, I don't think I at this point it's still young, so it doesn't have a very good derivatives marketplace. So it's very one-dimensional. It's kind of like a little bit of dead money, but I still buy crypto. There's not much else you can do other than, buy it. So I spread it around a little bit, and always long crypto.
Okay. Okay. So you think that someday in the future, probably crypto is going to be the currency, maybe.
No, I don't. Not necessarily. I
No?
think that crypto is going to be an asset class that's here to stay.
Okay.
I do think I do think that in the future we are going to see financial markets that are listed and financial markets that are tokenized, and I do think that we're going to see, continued growth um, in stable coins, in using crypto assets for, funding and for money transfer and things like that. So I think the space has legs. Um, that's all. I think the space will continue to grow.
But there are so many cryptos, sometimes, I'm like, I know the main ones, but every day a new crypto is coming out, with like 0.0001 cents, those.
Yeah, those you have to stay away from. Those are all garbage.
Yeah, that's true. Now, do you prefer futures or options? What do you prefer?
Well, I mean, I prefer options because that's what there's a much bigger selection, but I love the futures markets too, and so I trade a ton of futures.
Yeah, I saw a lot of your people who work with you that they do a lot of future options. Yeah,
Yeah, we
just
trade we trade a lot of futures, a lot of futures options. Tasty is a very active futures options firm. So yeah, we do trade a lot of futures options.
people should do more options than ETF or stocks.
No, no, more options than ETFs or stocks, sure. Because options are very capital efficient. So options are more interesting in the sense that, from a capital efficiency perspective, that's why people should use options.
What is the percentage of investment that you recommend for options and ETF or stocks?
We're we're about 70% options, 20%, futures, and futures options. The rest can be stocks, crypto, stuff like that. But in the 70% options, a lot of those are on indexes and ETFs.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you heard, probably you did. There is a lot of tools for Gamma. There are like, I think, Traditix, Spot Gamma, and now there's a new one called GexBot, and I don't remember the other one. But do you follow those tools or not? I
No,
love.
I have my hands full with my own stuff. No.
Oh, yeah. Do you like more like SMAs or follow the candles? How do you choose a position?
I'm not a technician. I base everything on implied volatility and
Well,
implied volatility relative to itself. I'm a vol trader, not a technician.
okay, so you like to sell when the volatility is high. That's
Yeah.
how do you normally do. Yeah, that's what I heard one time when you were doing a presentation in the summit with Luis. I send my regards to Luis.
Oh yeah, sure. He was great. That was a fun summit. That was in I think that was a year or two ago in Orlando, maybe. I
Yeah,
can't remember.
just two
Yeah.
years ago in Orlando, that's where I met you. And
Oh yeah.
I had a picture with you. I had to have a picture with you.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
said, you're a living legend for
Thank
options. No, and now there are some beginners that they normally they said that movements of the price that are manipulated. Do you think that the stock the prices are manipulated but money markets or by the institution? How do you, what would you tell them to them? Do you think there's any manipulations when you see the prices going up and down very, very fast?
No, I don't believe that markets are manipulated. It's for a lot of different reasons. It, there's a massive amount of money out there, and I think it's virtually impossible outside of like penny stocks and very small, kind of worthless underlines. It's virtually impossible to manipulate. You can't manipulate the S&Ps. You can't manipulate the bond market. I don't believe that there's any real. I mean, of course there are bad actors and there's bad players, in some individual stocks and things like that occasionally, but for the most part we're talking about a very efficient, very fair marketplace. And I don't believe in kind of the concept of bad actors.
Things work like that because we saw GameStop, like we're moving up and up and
I
up.
don't I don't know that GameStop was manipulated as much as I think that GameStop was just a very much an outlier move. It was kind of like uh it was just like the perfect storm, and a lot of things came together, and hence GameStop evolved. But I wouldn't expect, many every year we have something like that, but they're all, you know the the size of those moves is very, very diminished now.
I understand. Can you tell us what was your worst loss in your life now that you have 43 years in the market? Do you have any good memory of that time?
What do you mean, like how much money, or what was the trade?
Well, a trade that you did and didn't went well, so it was a very huge hit for you.
I have a lot of losses in my career. So, I mean, if you trade a lot, you're going to have a lot of losses. I've had losses. I mean, I've had dozens and dozens of losses in the six figures,
Wow.
and and probably, 10 losses in the seven figures. So I've had some ugly losses in my life. I've also had some good wins, you know, so um so it's kind of hard for me to say. I've some bad losses and some really good wins. It all's worked out really well for me, you know, over a 40 some odd year career. But yeah, I mean, I've had lots of um interesting wins and interesting losses throughout the years.
Now, when you have those losses, like, well, everybody has loss, but how do you handle? Because do you just close your computer and just go away, or you just try to catch up and get better?
Well, usually it's not that simple, because usually when I have losses like that, it's not something that I can just close the computer. It's not like, it usually is not a day trade or a scalp or something like that. It's usually, something that's a little more violent, and it's a combination of multiple positions and the market doing things that I didn't want it to do. Um, so so to be fair, I'm no, I don't close my computer. I never really get out. I try to do the best I can. You know,
Do you
you mentioned
do?
or GameStop, that when GameStop happened, I like everybody else, I got caught in that move, and the loss was pretty significant the first day. But we ended up, making it all back. But it took, a couple weeks.
Are you a day trader? Do you normally?
I do some, not a lot of day trading anymore. I used to do a lot. Now I do less day trading, but I still do, I still scalp. Sure.
What is the best message that you can give to this a small show that is just growing? What advice would you give me to how to grow my audience?
Well, like what people want is they want to, obviously they want people that, that that have experience that can help, but they also want people um, that are authentic. The best thing you can do is just be authentic. Be who you are, and be um, uh, be someone that people that they believe you. They believe what they see, what they hear. You know, they trust you, and I think that's um, I really think the key to this is just being someone legit, being someone authentic.
I have to tell my audience that we like to share the best that we are doing so they can not fail, you know. So in this time, are you planning to create some other interesting firm or something like that? So,
No, no, I'm not going to create another. I'm not going to create another brokerage firm. I feel like I've done my thing, and um, it's potentially time for someone else to carry the torch type of thing. Um, I guess that's the kind of the best way for me to explain it. I feel like, you know, I've built a really good foundation, and now it's time for other people to, um, if they want to, for them to, figure out the business, take it over, and decide how to grow a business, how to make. I've carried the torch for a long time in this industry. Almost, like I said, 25 years I've been introducing customers to finance, to derivatives, to options, to futures. We've been building super cool technology. We've hired, a few thousand people. We've built probably the two best platforms in the world. I've really worked to make the technology for retail investors special, the content, the education. I mean, now it's time for others to step up to the plate a little bit.
great, great. I have one question here that someone was asking me to tell. If you have $1,000, yes, you are starting a new time in the stock market. Where do you will put this money?
Well, $1,000 is tough because um, you're in a situation where um, you're really limited to what you can do. I mean, I mean, the simple answer is you could find an inexpensive stock and do a covered call. You can sell a naked put. I mean, I would put it to work. Let's put it that way. I would put it to work.
Okay. Now, how do you see this market with the almost recession? I will call probably. How do you trade in this type of markets where you see a lot of bear market?
I don't think you think about it like it's like you can't think about the macro picture. You can't think about something beyond what's in front of you to trade. What you have to do is just think about markets as as if you're trading them. I mean, that's what these are. These are trading markets. So you got to trade what's in front of you and not think about, oh man, what happens if we go into recession or stagflation or this or that. Just think about what's right in front of you at this moment and trade what's in front of you. You're as a trader, you're what you really are is you're an opportunist. Okay. You're that's it. That's what you do. You're an opportunist. Don't think of it as anything else.
Do you do any cover calls or not?
Of course.
Yes, and that's why I brought my my question because cover calls for me, at least for me, I try to run away from them because I see one positive and one negative, and
Yeah, it's boring. But you said for somebody that I understand, the covered calls, it's slow moving, it's boring, but it's a high probability trade. And if you're talking about somebody that was getting involved for the first time, that's why I suggested it, because it gives you an idea of how stocks work, how options work. I mean, I'd rather short a put and have a more capital efficient trade. But I think, given the question, That's the only reason I brought that up. I think for somebody that's an experienced trader, you're not going to do a lot of covered calls.
I understand. Now, for earnings, what would you recommend?
For earnings, I change things up a little bit. I prefer the shorter duration earnings, like the weeklies. Occasionally, I'll trade the monthlies, but I prefer the weeklies. And I like to go outside of the expected move, usually two times the expected move if you can, but at least one time, at least outside of the expected move. Short strangle, iron condor, any of that stuff.
Jay sir?
You could if you're bullish.
If you're bullish, yeah, that's true. You know, I heard a very sad story about a guy, and I was going to share with you this. Somebody told me that this guy actually sold a naked coal, and he lost a lot of money, like $700,000, and he just killed himself. And that's why sometimes people are so afraid to do short strangles or
I
short.
didn't hear about this. I didn't hear. But yeah, you shouldn't. The whole key to trading is size. You have to keep your size small. You cannot put yourself in a position that where you can, lose your capital. You cannot do it. So you have to size yourself. I'm sure the guy that lost 700,000 could not afford to lose it. And that's the problem.
That's
If
the
you have,
problem.
yeah, if you trade small, you never put yourself in those positions.
Sometimes there is a lot of people who actually they do margin calls, and they are playing, with money that they don't have, like expecting that they're going to win. That's what everybody works in the stock market, expecting that they're going to win. But do you recommend what is the percentage that they should invest from their money, from their savings?
First of all, from your savings, I mean, no more than between 25 and 35% of your liquid net worth. And then when you are trading, you don't want to use more than 5 to 10% on a specific trade. And you don't want to use more than 65% of your account. You have to be very careful not to over allocate. The only thing that doesn't work in this industry is size. We have a saying at Tasty. Um, when genius fails, it's always about trade size.
Hmm.
You don't know if you're going to be right or not when you make a market call, but trade size is what kills you.
Yeah, that's true. And actually, something happened to me yes, a few days ago when there was this news that they were extending the the tax for the for 90 days, and I had a put, yes, a straight put, and the market went up. I was like, I lost in seconds, and the volatility showed me, a huge amount of loss, that I had in that particular minute. It was very sad.
That was crazy. That was a crazy move. And that's why you just have to keep your size small because you never can predict what's going to happen next.
Do you do calls and puts? Just buy calls and buy puts, or you don't recommend that?
I don't. For some people, especially in this market, it's been a strategy that's been successful because volatility has continued to go higher. But I prefer, I'm more of a premium seller.
Great, great. Tom, I really want to thank you I don't want to take more of your time, but I really appreciate it that you took this moment to talk to us a little bit. If you want to give some advice and some words of goodbye to my audience.
Well, no, I mean, I'm glad you reached out to me. I think it's important that I connect with different audiences all over the world and people that sometimes don't get a chance to hear, a different perspective. I'm also, if anybody ever wants to email me, I'm just Tom at Tasty Live. Happy to answer any questions. And if you haven't checked out our software, any of our stuff, you should. But other than that, listen, I'm here as kind of an advocate for the retail trader, and I just want to be, I want to continue to engage people in the world of finance. I think it's important. I think it's life changing, and any way that I can help, I'm happy to. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Tom. I'll send you a big hug and we'll keep in touch.
Thanks so much. All right, take care, guys.
Take care.